One introduction. Rosep view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosep view. Purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, or ROSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this ROSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning, and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025, and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives, and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHXZK, November 15, 2025. Recidivism in prisons for women, a guide for dictators. Recidivism is a tricky concept, and not just because its name is hard to pronounce. Recidivism is the tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend. Using the word in a sentence, the prison has succeeded in reducing recidivism. The felon pedophile, Gillyflower Maximum Security, also has a name people give up trying to pronounce correctly, and also was caught up in a tricky situation in the high-security prison she was first sent to. It can all be blamed on her name. High-security prisons are tough for wallflowers like Gillyflower Maximum Security. In her petition to be moved to a low-security prison, Gillyflower Maximum Security recounted in tears being called mustard scent, and of course Wallflower, because she shrank against the prison walls when confronted by fellow women felons who were broken survivors of sexual assault. Gillyflower Maximum Security behaved much like any pedophile of any sex, punitively expected not to reoffend, but mired in prison and fearful when not in solitary confinement. She was also imaginatively called Cloven Foot, but one hopes that was in reference to her clove-like scent and not her devilish cloven feet. Alternately, she was nicknamed Stocky, although she was rigorously on GLP-1 like all her buddies in and out of prison. Gillyflower is a historical name for several flowering plants known for their scent, like cloves. The name likely comes from the Old French word girofle, meaning clove. The three most common types of gillyflowers are 1. The Carnation or the Clove Pink, often called the Clove Gillyflower for its strong clove fragrance. 2. The Stock, which also belongs to the mustard family and is prized for its mustard scent and spires of blooms. And 3. The Wallflower. Carnations Stocks and Wallflowers can be pink, purple, white, or red. Carnations Stocks and Wallflowers are popular in cottage gardens borders and as cut flowers for bouquets. Gillyflowers are not popular in prison gardens against border walls with electric fencing, and when gillyflowers are used in bouquets, give the unfortunate impression that gillyflowers are always held by the bridesmaid, never the bride. The second woman in prison in our sad but dictator-driven stab at recidivism tales somewhat like the Shawshank Redemption, but not really, because these two women appear super guilty and prone to recidivism at any moment. Also has a unique moniker that gets her into trouble, first in the Larry the Mermaid County Jail in Fort Ewell in Coloring Book State, and lately in the Twista Correctional Facility in Low Ebb Coloring Book State, that she inhabits until a dictator can only hope. Fingers crossed. She may be transferred to a federal prison at the petition of the dictator of our fair country. This second woman prisoner may be rescued from eking out her days in a correctional facility in Coloring Book State. She is currently being held at the Twista Correctional Facility in Ebb Flow, Coloring Book State. Because those charges were made at the state level, Tiny Weiners can only be granted clemency by some highfalutin Coloring Book State gov. If Tiny Weiners, by attention to the dictator dictated letter, becomes a federal prisoner or felon or fel, which of course is short for felicity, which has two definitions: 1, intense happiness, or 2, the ability of one to find appropriate expression for his or her thoughts, may be free to offer her expertise to the dictator soon. The woman previously in the Ewell in jail and then the Twista in Ebb Flow has a given name of Tiny Weiners, and although she is technically a woman, she is called Bad Peter by her mean girl fellow prison inmates, which does not even make any sense, because as said before, she is biologically a woman, her sex assigned at birth, which on first blush seems as immutable as her sentence at first appeared non-commutable. But wait. As of November 14, 2025, the administration of the dictator of our fair country seeks federal custody of an imprisoned Coloring Book State elections clerk, namely Tiny Weiners. As reported from the capital of the Coloring Book State, the dictator administration is seeking a transfer from Twista State Prison to federal custody of a former Coloring Book State county clerk who has become a hero to election conspiracy theorists. The Coloring Book State Department of Corrections said Friday that it received a letter from the Federal Bureau of Prisons regarding Tiny Weiners on Wednesday. Neither the department nor the Bureau of Prisons immediately responded to a request to provide a copy of the letter, but a Corrections Department spokesperson confirmed the letter was a request to move Weiners to federal custody. A member of the legal team of Tiny Weiners said he had seen the letter and also described it as a request to move her to a federal prison to serve out her sentence there. It is not to have her released, he said. While he said the letter did not say why the agency wanted to move Weiners, he believes it is so she could more easily be involved in investigations into voting machines in the 2020 presidential election, and because of health problems she has been having in state prison. Tiny Weiners, age 70, was convicted of orchestrating a scheme to breach voting machine data driven by false claims of fraud in the 2020 election. Her release from prison has become a cause célèbre in the election conspiracy movement. The dictator of our fair country and other supporters inside and outside his administration have been urging that Tiny Weiners be freed as she appeals her conviction in September after Tiny Weiners pleaded for the dictator to release her ahead of the midterm elections. The dictator renewed his call for her to be freed, saying, "We are going to do something." Related video: the dictator administration takes formal step toward freeing Tiny Weiners, but there is a wrinkle in this tale of the Tiny Weiners' possible return to the fold of the dictator and possible release on appeal and possible, oh happy day, recidivism. Unlike the cartoon Slimy Coyote in the scenic landscape of the nearby state of New Lexicon, she will not easily run free to indulge in recidivism. The comments of the coloring book state attorney general are like an anvil dropped on the head of Tiny Weiners. Curses foiled again. The coloring book state attorney general said there was no basis for a transfer to federal prison and said he would strongly oppose any such efforts. Any scheme to prevent her from being held accountable under coloring book state law is outrageous. The coloring book state attorney general said in a statement his office is also opposing an effort by Tiny Weiners in federal court seeking to be released from prison while the appeal of her state conviction plays out. Tiny Weiners is serving a 9-year sentence after a jury in Messed Up County, where she had served as clerk, found her guilty last year of allowing someone to gain unauthorized access to the election system she oversaw and deceiving other officials about the identity of that person. She has continued to press discredited claims about rigged voting machines. There is no evidence of any significant cheating in coloring book state elections, which have been staunchly defended by the county clerks of coloring book state, most of whom are repugnant. Tiny Weiners was prosecuted by an elected repugnant district attorney, and the 3 supervisors in her conservative-leaning, Messed Up County also supported the case and defended the integrity of the elections of the state of coloring book state. Since Wednesday, it has been speculated that the dictator would like the help of Tiny Weiners in the 2026 elections with her bag of tricks taken mostly from Slimy Coyote of cartoon fame. The Slimy Coyote bag of tricks against an innocent voter recently dressed up on Halloween like an inflatable bird consists of elaborate, often expensive branded contraptions, sometimes called cartoon trash can voting machines, which were just trash cans with handmade signs on them placed by Slimy Coyote near real working voting machines to amuse Slimy Coyote. But these obstructive Slimy Coyote efforts are always sabotaged by engineering failures, cartoon physics, or the mental agility of innocent voters, pointing out they were being deprived of the right to vote because the real voting machines were obstructed temporarily by Slimy Coyote trash cans until the trash cans were providently removed by law enforcement, who also wore bird costumes on Halloween this year. Bird costumes have come to symbolize the innocent voter and law enforcement who stood up to the machinations of Tiny Weiners and Slimy Coyote during the 2020 election and possibly the 2024 election. The Slimy Coyote schemes include using rocket-powered roller skates, giant magnets, elaborate traps, and TNT, but the results almost always backfire on him. Instead, examples of failed traps: 1 boxing glove, a spring-loaded boxing glove attached to a boulder, which propelled the boulder backward, smashing Slimy Coyote; 2 tight wire anvil, a tight wire stretched between 2 cliffs, which turned out to be a stretchy rubber band, causing Slimy Coyote to be launched into the air with the anvil; 3 TNT and water, a trap rigged with TNT set to explode when water was picked up. However, the innocent voter was able to write a sign to communicate it was unsafe to drink. 4 rocket roller skates. Slimy Coyote uses these to chase the innocent voter down a road, but Slimy Coyote himself ends up running off a cliff. 5 key elements of the bag of tricks. ICME products. Slimy Coyote often relies on products from the fictional ICME Corporation, which are frequently defective or mislabeled. A1. Engineering failures. The traps often fail due to poor engineering, such as using a spring-loaded rope that is too short or using a tight wire that stretches. B2. Cartoon physics. Some traps fail due to the rules of cartoon physics, such as a trap that looks like a solid surface But is not until slimy Kai OT tries to cross at C3 the agility of the innocent voter often dodges the traps, which frequently causes them to backfire on the slimy Kai OT. But wait. Both Slimy Kai OT and Tiny Wiener may be released through the ongoing machinations of the dictator of our fair country. In May 2025, the dictator directed justice to take actions to secure the release of Tiny Weiners. In August 2025, the dictator issued a social media statement warning that harsh measures would be imposed on coloring book state if Tiny Weiners was not released. And of course the letter this Wednesday, November 12, 2025 stay tuned a taste of the arguments for allowing future recidivism by Tiny Weiners. She has big ideas for such a little brain. Backed by the biggest little brain in the country, the dictator Tiny Weiners could go far in her vocation of election interference, possibly making a big splash in 2026. Recidivism forever. For example, Tiny Weiners was convicted in August 2024 on 7 of 10 charges of engaging in a security breach to advance a false conspiracy theory of election fraud. 4 of the convictions were for felonies, just one example of blatant and bravely repugnant recidivism. On the day after her conviction, she appeared on a right-wing repugnant podcast to insist she would continue to pursue her allegations, referring to a debunked theory originating from a former Michigan politician and amplified on a right-wing internet site alleging voting machine engineers based in Serbia could change votes over the internet. All totally untrue. Tiny Weiners, a brilliant mind at work in service as a lapdog to a dictator. What could go wrong in coloring book state?
Red-green fox here. The quick red-green fox jumped over the barriers to clean air. Red-green fox here. Ready to sing to you the names of the 2025 major wood-burning biomass industry subsidy opponents. 1. Biofuel Watch. 2. Bulkley Valley Stewardship Coalition of British Columbia, Canada. 3. Comite Schoen Lucht, which means Beautiful Air Committee in German. 4. Dogwood Alliance. 5. Equity Group Foundation, nicknamed EGF. 6. Environmental Paper Network, nicknamed EPN. 7. Natural Resources Defense Council, nicknamed NRDC. 8. Prakaunia Narzek Wissenskich Istet, which means Workshop for All Beings in Polish. 9. Rachel Carson Council. 10. Solutions for Our Climate, nicknamed SFOC.
Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies, which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. Rosette view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco Design Wood Stove International. Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette View Purple Air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.